do want to stress that trail maintenance is very light trail maintenance. You definitely don't have to come out, with big shovels and big plaskies and stuff like that. That's stuff for us to do. And we realize a lot of people are not going to want to do trail maintenance. I mean, we're going to have people that are just at the bottom of the trail. But if this is your thing and you want to help out, we do definitely stress light trail work. And that usually involves, if a step is out of place, because sometimes someone will step on it, or a horse, and it'll knock it out. It's kind of just a safety thing, and it's basically putting it back. A lot of other trail maintenance stuff is just trimming bushes. And I think there's a slide on the next one. But that, again, there's not that much to trim here. We're in Chaparral, unless you're at the bottom by the water where everything's big. But mostly everything on top is pretty minimal. Usually we get to that in the summertime, with the drought. We don't have a lot of stuff you really have to trim. So kind of the rules are for trimming stuff, if it's in your way. And there's no huge sign sitting around this. As long as a horse can get through it and you can walk safely in a bike, I think there's probably some clearances, but again, that's not too much of an issue. So we'll give you bloppers if you want to take those. I think there's also going to be a small shovel.
Yeah, we don't know if we want to give you the shovel yet or not, but we'll talk about that.
Okay. Is there any other hand tools or anything?
No, it's just pruners.
So yeah, this is basic stuff. Basically, it's more documentation. So if you find something that needs to be done, mark it down, let us know. If it's something really bad, we can get a trail crew on it, or we can go out and do it. But the main thing for you is when you're out is to just find these things and let us know. But other things you can do for trail patrol, for maintenance, is fencing. We have a lot of split rail fencing. Split rail fencing doesn't like to stay up by itself. As much as we like it to, it shrinks over time. People sit on it, break it, it rots, it gets old. So a lot of that stuff is just documentation, but a lot of times if you just take it, pick it back up and put it back together, that's all it requires. So basically you do those kind of things. This is trimming. Go to the next one. Design, repair, and maintenance. We do not do any trail work in the summer here. The trail is like a rock. You basically need equipment to get into it. If you want to spend a lot of energy just trying to move a rock, dig a little hole out here, it's like concrete. So most of our trail work is always done in the winter, which is the same time that all the weeds grow. So if you want to do any kind of trail work, that kind of stuff, we do that in the winter time. I think one of the worst things that we have here is water on the trail. Water on the trail will destroy it in no time. We have to get the water off of the trail. A lot of times we do this by outsloping. So you can see right here, it's actually insloped a little bit, and the water's just going to run down. And if you get a half inch of rain, an inch of rain, that's carrying tons of debris away. That just goes right off the trail, and you have nothing but rocks left. So what we try to do here is we outslope it, and then usually we have like a little dip where it can run off, so we can get the water off the trail as quick as possible. The more water on the trail, the faster your trail goes away.
And this might be an opportunity, if any of you are interested in the special projects, we'll kind of put together little strike teams in the wintertime, like right after a storm when the soil conditions are good, or we know a big storm is coming and we know there's a couple spots we need to hit. You might have an opportunity to do this level of work with us, but it would be with us.
Unauthorized trails. We do get a lot of these. People like to take shortcuts, even if it's a few feet. But a lot of people just don't realize the amount of damage that they're doing, because with this low tolerance, there's no water, it takes forever to grow back. It can take years to recover. And we get this all the time where it's just people cutting switchbacks. They try to go up and down, and you get more soil erosion, and then when it does rain, that stuff just washes away. So the main thing is trying to find them. If you hike around here, you can see them pretty easily, and we'll actually go down and I'll show you one that's pretty bad down here, and it's actually done by horses. A lot of times with horses out here, they go wherever they want. They will not stay on trail. They want to run their horses, they just go wherever and just create some more trails. A lot of times our trails are created are deer trails or animal trails, which will turn into social trails. Once someone sees it, you can walk this way, they usually do. So I think we have some pictures here of, you want to tell me where these are at?
Let me see. Let me see this one. Start off with this one. So this one, next up. So this one's going to be towards the top of the way up, that's bypassing the switchback.
Yeah, so we got a switchback right here, you can see. Usually when this happens, we'll try to go through. There's a couple different things we'll do to try to fill these things in.
That's from the buggy.
These are just kind of techniques that we do. I'll just let you pass these down. We can either put fencing up, but when we do that, it does take a long time. It's a huge expense to put fencing up. Like I told you before, fencing is not permanent. The best thing we like to do is remove the visual. If someone can see it, they want to walk on it. So we have to hide it. And usually the problem is that whoever made that trail comes back, and then when they see that we did this, they get mad and they rip everything out. We do have a couple techniques when it gets to that point. We don't like to use, but we will if we have to. I'll go ahead and look here. So yeah, basically it's just removing the visual, and that's good. Maybe next time we can put these up.
Yeah, we will.
Also, we use signage. This works for some people. Some people do not care. If they want to go down to the reservoir, they will go down no matter how many signs you put up, no matter what they say, and they'll break them. So we definitely always try to block this stuff off and just remove that visual. And I think we had the trail down from the picnic area down to the lake. And every single time that we would block this off, we would do dozens of times. Someone would come in, they'd rip it all out and make it worse. If not, they would just go somewhere else and go around it. So we actually have used, what do we call it?
Habitat wire.
Habitat fencing is what we call it.
Barbed wire.
It's barbed wire, which I do spray paint, camouflage. Sunset is the color that we used. It's basically one of those things that it won't hurt you, it just will scratch you, and we just try to make it a pain to get through it. So yeah, we have a couple spots where we just wind this stuff up, we put a bunch of brush in there, and hopefully we'll leave it alone. And I think we're at a few months now. And
it's been pretty successful, yeah, that was
You know where you go on the trail when you start going down towards the lake cottages, look out, you go down towards the reservoir, where the dip is?
No, that's the saddle. No, this is it.
Right, but, because that's where people go in to get
Go swimming.
or whatever. But then on opposite that, that's where I've seen people.
That's when you swim.
At night after closing. But that trail that goes right opposite it, I've seen people, going down towards,
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
On the other side. Yeah, I've tried to block that one off, and we put signs there. And the problem is that once we block it off,
yeah.
they just go around and damage even more, habitat.
It almost looks like you guys were building it.
Yeah, that's what happens. People walk on it, and you stomp on it, and it turns into a trail.
Yeah.
And while we're on the topic of people going down to the reservoir, if you encounter that, I would encourage you to call us first, because that can become a confrontational interaction pretty quickly.
Because they know what they're doing is illegal.
Yeah.
They pretty much know that there's signs. The whole reservoir is signed. And so if they are fishing or if they're going to fish, we can get fishing game out here to pot them. So.
Yeah, so we'd ask you not to try and handle that one on your own, unless you were just hiking down the trail and they just popped up and they were just there, and you could educate them. But otherwise, yeah, give us a call on those.
Yeah, we've actually walked down a couple of those trails, and there's a couple spots where they've made little fishing lines, like right next to the water, stacked up rocks so they can sit down there and not be seen, and just try to fish. But, okay, so that's illegal trails.
Ready?
Yep. All right. Other things you guys can do that will help us out is remove invasives. When I first started here, the park was covered in and mustard and basics. Like, I probably spent my first 2 years just spraying stuff. We've got it pretty much under control, but the stuff will pop up. It does whenever it rains, when spring comes. Anything that's in a disturbed area will pop up. The first one here is castor bean. We usually find this in highly disturbed areas, usually by the water. It's incredibly poisonous if you know what you're doing. But usually we'll find this, and it's usually has big leaves. But if you find this one, you'll probably be by the water. And this one you can usually just pull off by hand. It's pretty easy. Russian thistle. This stuff's pretty nasty. It doesn't really have a leaf pattern to it. What will happen with this one is this one will grow up. Once it gets about this big, it'll die. So the base will break off, and then it'll roll away, and dry out, and then disperse its seeds all over the place. So this one is usually by roads. We do get it in some parts on the Cielo Trail. We get it in a couple spots. But yeah, this one's pretty nasty. This one, depending on the size, if you could just let us know where it's at, we can go get rid of it. Because usually, if you have something this big, there's nothing you can really do with it. So usually we'll try to spray it depending where it's at.
It's just tumbleweed.
Yeah, it's basically what any Western movie you watch. This is what they're showing you.
That goat head, right?
What's that?
That's the goat heads also.
Oh, I've never heard that term.
Yeah, that's the little seed that has all the little thorns on it.
Okay.
Fountain grass. This stuff spreads everywhere. If you're down by the park down there on the hillside, this stuff grows all the way up and down it. We get a lot of florists that come out and they pick these things and they cut them and they put them in arrangements and they spread the seeds all over the place. This one is usually pretty small and easy to remove. Usually a little hand tool, you can get it out. It's not too bad. Usually we'll spray it depending on the time of the year. But usually we're pretty good on this one, but it does pop up along the access road every once in a while. Tomagoye. Does anybody know what its defense mechanism is? This guy's particularly nasty. With this, I would not recommend trying to remove it. It has such a low base, like basil leaves there, that when you try to pull it out, you'll probably just break it off, and then you're just making it mad, so it'll pop right back up again. These ones we want to spray. Also the time of year too. If this is summertime, you usually cannot get these guys out of the ground. All you're going to do is just break them off, and then you come back in 2 weeks and they're smiling at you again. So yeah, these guys we want to spray when we can. So if you do find patches of these, we do get them in the park every once in a while. We'll go out and we'll spray them. So
What do you spray with? Do you use Roundup?
we use Roundup, yeah. Tree tobacco. Do not smoke this. Much of it applies. This one is usually in very high disturbed soils by the road. I think right outside of our parking lot, the main driveway, there's one that I've chopped down multiple times. I've sprayed it. It just keeps coming back. I think the taproots are really long in this thing. There's not much you can really do, but if you can cut it and you can spray it at the same time, we might be able to get it. But yeah, there's some of these that just keep coming back.
So it's not native. That's not a native.
That's not it. No. Mustard. This one was particularly bad when I first started. Any disturbed area that we had, this stuff was covered in it. It would just be everywhere. We spent years spraying it, years pulling it out. So it hasn't been too bad the last few years. I think there's only, it pops up here and there, but there's not fields of it like we used to have. So
The
we did a
drought
pretty
helps.
good job on this one. You can also eat this one. It's mustard, we make mustard from. It's got a nice spicy ting to it. It's pretty nice. But
Like
yeah,
edible?
it's edible, yeah. But yeah, that one you're probably, usually if you find them, you're gonna find a whole bunch of them. You're gonna want to sit there all day, trying to pull them out. Mexican palm fan. These guys will grow anywhere. Usually by water though, but they are pretty hardy, so if they get a little seed, they'll pop up. We've actually had a couple of these on top of the interpretive center. So they, a lot of times you get them in mulch. A lot of times when you go to the store and you buy like ground up mulch, they'll have these things in there. Next thing you know, you just plant a bunch of these around your house. So usually you'll find these right in the creek on botanical trail. If you look down, you'll find a bunch of these on the water. We do try to pull them out or cut them out. We're pretty successful at it. All right, next one. Eucalyptus. There's not much you guys can do for this. Yeah, let's do a chainsaw. We were in the park. We're pretty good. There's a few trees that I've cut down every single year since I've been here, and they just keep growing back. I don't know what to do.
You have to put like what we do is a bleach inside the remaining part of the trunk.
Yeah, I've chopped this one and I've given it 100% Roundup, and it just laughs at me. So, but yeah, there's a few spots that we had it, but for the most part we've
Bleach
been.
time. Say bleach.
We've been pretty successful with removing it, and we had a huge invasive removal plan back in the 90s, so we've been pretty good with this one.
Why isn't it so popular?
Mike.
What's?
Oh, they thought the railroad could use it for railroad.
Oh, why is it?
Right, I know that's why they brought it in, but why don't we like it?
Because it kills everything.
Yeah.
Does it?
Everything underneath it, all those leaves, the oils. Usually underneath it, all it is just duff of that tree, and you will not get native
Fire.
back.
They grow so fast,
They grow
they
fast.
shade all the competing plants.
Plants
They don't
around,
get the sunlight.
And they burn, and they're designed, and that's how they. But yeah, we'll get them. They'll pop up under there. But if we get them, and they're small, we can make hiking sticks out of them. But you know, once they get so big, we can't cut them anymore, and we have to get CDF to come out.
We have to get koala bears.
Yeah. We can donate it to the zoo or something.
Right.
Spanish broom. Let's see this one. I don't know much about. I think the remaining ones. These are usually pretty small. We'll give you a little handout, probably a little booklet that we'll probably laminate with all the natives, maybe what they look like, so you can kind of just flip through. Because a lot of these, I kind of forget over the year until next season when it rains, and they're like, oh yeah, I remember this plant. So I don't know too much. You know anything about this one?
It looks a lot like deerweed, which is a native.
Yeah.
I personally haven't encountered too much of it around here, so.
Yeah, I think a lot of these next ones are probably not going to see too often, so I think just kind of it looks the same. We'll give you a handout.
They're all yellow.
They're all yellow. Yellow seems to be bad. I do see that. Tool maintenance. Like I said, you're only going to have air loppers. Basically, they don't like dirt. If you get them in the dirt, just let us know. We can clean them. We can hose them off with WD-40. But we're not going to have a can of WD-40 there. So usually, if you come down, just wipe them off. Sometimes, if you cut something too big, you can bend the blade or it gets dull. Just let us know, and we'll sharpen it up for you. But yeah, you don't have to do any of this. Just make sure they're there, and we'll just do the basic maintenance on them.
And one more thing, is it next week is Rick?
The third training.
Third, so in
2
week
weeks.
3, we'll have Rick Halsey come out and he will give you a much more in-depth talk on plants, native and non-native, that you find in the park.
And again, you'll have like a little spiral booklet laminated of all the native or the non-natives, and you can carry that in your vest when you do your hikes, and that way you don't have to really memorize all these, but it's good to get some exposure to them so that when you do see them on the trail, you'll notice them.
So are we going to 11? Do we even need to go on a trail or just going every?
You've got 20 more minutes if you want to take them out to the trail. Or actually, what time is it?
I have to leave around 11:15 anymore.
Do you want to go on radio? And
Let's do radio, and then if some of you have to leave, you can leave, and if not, we can all go down. and
That's good.
Take a quick look. How's that sound?
All right, so it's going to be real quick and dirty. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our 800 megahertz ultra high frequency or UHF radios, and our RCS, which is called the Regional Communication System. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have you pass these down, and I'd like to thank Don actually provided these. He does some work with the Pasadena Fire Department. So this kind of shows you all the functions with the radio. So we're going to go over basic operation, radio etiquette, when to use your radio. That will include checking in and in emergency situations. But we kind of went over the protocol, and I want you guys to, if in any instance of emergency, contact 911 first. There are some dead zones in the park, so in that case, you might have to utilize the radios.
As far as the check-ins, we really didn't talk about that. We would like for you to be very comfortable with the radios, and at least once during your hike, we don't want you checking in a dozen times, but at least once or twice, you hail us on the radio and let us know where you are, and we'll come back and say copy, and then continue anyway. So that lets us know where you are, and it keeps you familiar and comfortable with the radio.
You also might think about doing it again, just to let you know that we're out.
Yeah, and exactly.
Kind of an entry and exit
Yeah.
procedure. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this is a map of the entirety of the regional communication system. Honestly, I don't really fully understand it. It looks pretty complex. But to kind of put in perspective, these little dots here kind of represent like what is called an interrepeater. And you've got other dots that represent dispatch centers. So essentially what it creates is just a big communications net. And if you guys notice up here, we have the north loop. And we actually have our closest repeater is going to be the Harmony repeater. And if you guys are familiar with the area, you guys, if any of you know where Wild Willow Hollow is, it's a road that is adjacent to our staging area. It's actually north of our staging area. And on the top of the hill, that's where the Harmony repeater is. So we won't go too much into detail, but our regional communication system encompasses San Diego County as well as Imperial County.
Yeah, it's huge.
It's huge. It's really big.
It's a very robust system.
Okay, so coverage area, 9,000 square miles, 185 miles of border. It can go from 100 feet below sea level all the way up to 6,500 feet. So kind of puts in perspective the enormity of the RCS.
They're not just walkie-talkies.
No.
This is the real deal.
Yeah.
Much more than that, absolutely.
Is that technically a handy talkie?
So prior, kind of in the mid-90s, most emergency services and agencies utilized kind of shortwave radio, CBs, things like that. And the board of supervisors got together and said, we need to come up with a more effective way to communicate, in a multitude of different situations, emergencies, whatever. So, so the vision, to provide seamless wireless coverage for public safety service agencies serving 3,700,000 people in San Diego and Imperial County. To provide RCS users with wireless interoperability with other local systems. And interoperability is a means law, fire, EMS, and public service can talk readily with each other to coordinate life-saving responses. So that means no one should lose their life or property because public safety personnel cannot communicate effectively. Okay, so there's local, county, state, and federal participants. We're included as well. Total, there's about 217. Total operating cost is around $70 million annually. For a in-network participant, which would be like fire departments or police departments, their cost per radio is about $26 because they have more radios, so they're able to get a cheaper price. Now for us, it's $75 a month per radio, so it's expensive. It adds up.
Is it like a private company that maintains this? Or
No, it's actually ran through the San Diego Sheriff's. They have their own communications division. So kind of the central hub, kind of the Death Star of our communication system is it's COC, which is down in Kearny Mesa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's kind of the hub, and everything kind of runs out of there. Cool. All right, let's move on. All right, so before we jump into the moving your tablet section, we're just going to kind of go over the basic functions. Let's see here. So you guys have your handout. I'm going to go ahead and pass these radios down. Now these are the ones we use. This is the Motorola XTS 2500. Now different agencies use, they've got 3,000 models, 3,500 models. They all essentially do the same thing. They have just different functions. The ones you guys are going to be using are going to be the older models, which are going to be the MTS 2000. They essentially do the same thing, just the display is different. So all these buttons that you guys see on the handout essentially does the same thing. So what we're going to do is we're going to start from the top and work our way down. And if you guys have any questions, just let me know. Okay.
I got a question.
Sure.
What's the orange button do? Can I press it?
Do not press the orange button. The orange button, as you guys can see right here, it's the top button, it's emergency. So now you have to specifically activate it, so police departments, fire departments, a lot of times if they're responding to an emergency, especially the fire departments, and you've got a guy that's, comes to the door with a gun or something, and you have a discreet way to, get additional resources to help you with that emergency, or if, you don't have the ability to verbally communicate over the radio, you have this red button. So in the instance of an emergency like that, you press that red button, and it'll go to dispatch, they'll hail you, and if you don't respond, or you say certain keywords, which I won't share, they're like secret words, they'll send the appropriate response, whether it's police or whether it's additional resources to help you out. Now thankfully with our radios, I want to encourage you to press it, but I'm pretty sure they're not active on our radios, just to kind of point it out, so try not to touch it. So, all right, so we'll start off with the, we only have two, so we'll kind of make do, so we'll put one on one side. Other side.
I did some research, haven't told you this yet, Jonathan, but those radios are so old, and I talked to RCS, and they said that sometimes when they reactivate them, they just don't work. And they're so old that getting parts for them is difficult, if not impossible. So we may have to upgrade you to the more current radios if these don't work. And that's going to be at a very large cost, but we'll do it.
They're about $3,500 a unit.
Wow.
So to kind of put that perspective, try to take care of them, try not to lose them. They're very expensive.
You probably want to number them.
They are actually numbered.
Oh, they are, so
Yeah.
people can check them out.
Yeah, so they have,
Check them out, they have the number,
It'll have a phone number.
to check it out.
so on one side it says if found, call, such and
No,
such
I didn't
number.
mean that number, I meant.
But they also have radio, or they have engraved numbers as well, so like 203.
Okay, but I meant like, we can have that number, I mean, you can have that number, but the people who check out the radio, let's say you have number 1 and 2 and 3, or whatever, they say which one they checked out.
Yeah, in the checkout process,
Yes.
it will be specific.
Yeah,
Are we only gonna have this one?
We're going to have 2 radios.
in case it gets lost.
That's a good point. If it does get lost, there's actually a setting on here if somebody was to find it.
They start pressing buttons.
You call,
Hello.
You call RCS and you say, hey, we lost a radio, so they're going to shut down this radio, but they're going to limit it to one frequency. And there's actually one frequency. They'll fiddle with the channels, and it'll go to one frequency that says reward, and it will broadcast a message. Say, if this radio is found, take it to such and such, and they actually give rewards for these. I think it's like $50 or something.
Oh, wait, it'll actually start talking loud.
Exactly. So like,
Oh, okay.
the RCS will shut this radio off so nobody can use it. Okay, but they can turn it on and they'll fiddle with all the channels and they won't be able to use anything. The only channel it will go to is the reward one where it will broadcast that message. Okay.
It's funny, every once in a while you hear on the radio, you hear someone pick one up and they're like, hello, I found this at McDonald's, hello. And like, just like they'll forget it or something and it goes over the radio, so don't be that guy.
So we'll start off with the volume. It's this one right here. Very simple, very self-explanatory. You can just turn it and adjust your volume accordingly, however you like it. It's going to be the one, yeah, right there, perfect. Okay, so that's the volume. Now the knob, right here, this is the knob to control the, you can change through the different channels. Now you guys are going to only be operating off of one channel, so that's not really a big deal, but if you guys happen to take it off that channel, you should know how to change the channels. So it's just simple.
What is our channel?
Our channel is going to be OMWD admin. So that is the channel that we all operate on, the park rangers. This is what we communicate with. So that's our channel.
No one else can hear it.
Okay, and obviously they're not activated. I
Those
mean,
aren't activated
right,
yet.
So you do, okay.
And you can press
Put a battery in it.
Does that mean that other people can like change their station and hear our like communication too?
That'll kind of segue into etiquette because there are, believe it or not, there's computer apps now where they can stream radio broadcasts. They can monitor police frequencies, fire frequencies. They can do that online. So that kind of segues into etiquette. And we'll get into that later. We'll just continue with the functions of the buttons. Okay. So this knob controls the channels. So we operate off Tackling, or not Tackling Charlie, OMWD admin. Okay. So on the side here, you have a number of different buttons. The purple button is to illuminate the display, like so. If you guys can kind of see, lighting's not too good, but when it's dark, if you press that button, it'll cause the display to glow. Okay, to the below that, you have the PTT, or push to talk. Now, if you're trying to communicate with someone, this is the button you press. So what you do is you would. Okay, so you hold it. So it'll chime like that. So it'll chime, and you hold it down. So that's your push to talk. So if you're ever trying to use the radio, that's the button that you're going to use.
You have to get those 3 beeps before you talk, and that's your indication that you've connected to the network.
Correct.
And then you talk, so you don't, and sometimes if there's a lot of traffic or you're in a semi-dead spot, you won't get those 3 beats and you might have to try a couple times.
So you wait for the chime and you hold it down. And then from there you can speak. We'll go over that a little bit more. So the button below that, the 2 buttons below that, don't worry too much about it. You guys aren't really going to need to use it. The first button, the above button, is to, it's called squelching. And when you have a radio and you're scanning different frequencies, if the other frequencies you're scanning, if it's starting to cloud out what you're trying to listen to, you can push that button so that you stay on one frequency. But we're not going to go over that too much because you guys you're not going to need that. And then this button right here, actually I got it mixed up. The button above is, you can hold that down and that'll scan which repeater you're working off of. The button below actually is the squelch button.
But none of those should change, of course, right? We shall be one frequency, one
Correct.
channel, one.
All you need to know is the push to talk button and the channel selector in case it gets bumped off the
Right,
channel.
that's it.
That's all you need.
That's all you need to know. Now as far as the keypad, home button, all these buttons, I mean, you guys don't really need to worry about those. It's pretty just staying on the volume control, the channel selector, and the push to talk. And I mean, if you needed it, you have the illumination for the light conditions, but I'm pretty sure you guys are going to be here after hours. So.
What is the channel number? You have the channel number associated to WMD?
No, it really doesn't. It's just.
On the top.
Yeah, when we get them programmed, we won't know until they actually program it and put it on 1 through 12?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, what of those numbers should?
But on the display.
It'll show it on the display, so you could just toggle through until you see OMWD admin.
So now that, I heard you say 3 things. So the larger button is the one that we push to talk and hold.
Correct.
But is that the one that gets the 3 beeps to make sure we're?
Yes.
Well, okay.
And you have to release it to hear.
Correct.
You know, Jonathan, some people are tactile learners, so you might want to
Sure.
give people an opportunity to do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we can do that. We can do that when we walk down.
Yeah, that sounds good.
So it's just real simple. I mean, it's just ready to talk. So, and we'll go over, we'll play a little bit with the radios. We'll have some playtime with the radios and let you guys try it out. So, do you have a question?
Yeah, it's all on our station, so like if run the OMW admin, it would obviously be the Rangers.
Correct.
Also like just Rangers?
Yeah. So with the Park Rangers radios, we have the ability to communicate with pretty much any resource we need, whether it's local fire, sheriff, police. We do have the ability to communicate with helicopters, some of the fire helicopters and medical helicopters. So like we were saying, with our emergency protocols, it's always going to be first foremost. You shouldn't have too much trouble with that. I mean, you can go up the Equine or you can go up the Lake Hodges Overlook, and those usually have decent cell coverage. So, but there might be that slight possibility that you don't have the ability to use your phone. So that's why it's important. This is an indispensable tool. It's a very robust network. I've used this in very terrain, different areas, and it usually works pretty well. So, I think what else?
Are you encouraging call 911 first if it's an emergency?
Yes.
And then call us?
Yes.
So,
If you can't call us, use that.
correct. So, and as far as etiquette goes, the thing with radio communication, you want to avoid using any sort of profanity. Don't use any last names. Try to keep communication short and concise. You don't want to be giving like a 5-minute long dissertation. You know, blah, 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 blah. You want to keep it short and sweet, as short and sweet as possible. So now if you were to say want to try to hail somebody, so give an example, say I'm trying to hail Jeff. What you'll do is everybody has a designator. So I'm Ranger 203, Jeff's Ranger 201, you're 204? Yeah, Ranger 204. And your designation as Trail Patrol, you'll be EFRR Trail Patrol. Trail Patrol. Yeah. And if we have simultaneous Trail Patrols, we'll designate you Trail Patrol 1 or Trail Patrol 2. So when you want to speak with somebody, you just queue up on the mic, keep it about a few inches from your mouth, hold push the top, Ranger 201, Ranger 203. And then you wait for them to respond. When they respond, they'll say Ranger 201. Go ahead.
So you would say Ranger 201, EFRR Trail Patrol. That's how you say who you're talking to and then who you are. That's the protocol.
And
Well, we might not know who's, I mean, does it matter if it's who we hail?
If you hail one of us who's not in that day, one of us will pick up.
Yeah.
And then they'll come in and say, this is 202, can I help you, or whoever.
Okay.
So, but we'll have a go around with everybody so everybody kind of gets to see how to work it. It's
And you'll publish those.
Yeah, that'll be in your vest. You'll have all that stuff.
so, and probably an emergency contact list as well.
Well, actually, we'll probably laminate it and stick it to the back of the radio. That's a good idea.
So, I think that covers it. Just really reiterating, just, good etiquette, no last names, no profanity, keep it short and concise. Keep track of these, they are very expensive, they're very durable. Try not to drop them or anything.
We'll give you, they make
Not
big
waterproof.
They make big leather holsters, and you can clip that onto your belt. So you could even fall down, and the thing, it would be protected. So
It's funny that they're not waterproof. My phone's over.
they make waterproof ones, those ones are $5,000.
Yeah.
Very expensive.
Do we want to keep them on when we?
Absolutely.
Yes.
And then do we want to make sure they're being charged when we turn them back in?
There'll be charging stations down there, because we could hail you, we could get a report that something is happening, and we can say, hey, can you get your eyes on this for us? Can you confirm this? So we may be hailing you too.
Yes, absolutely. So there's not a lot of room for error. We're only going to be programming one frequency for you guys. So
Will we hear outside traffic or not?
no.
Yeah. We might load some more frequencies in a different zone, which you don't know how to get to, and that way you could scan other stuff, but it gets confusing, and it might confuse. If there's a fire happening, you might think it's close to us, but it could be
30 miles
50
away.
miles away. So I think from the beginning, we're just going to keep it on the one channel.
So and honestly, if any of you, we're gonna play with the radios a bit, but at any time if you feel uncomfortable or you want a little bit extra, instruction on this, let me know. I'm more than happy to individually teach you guys anything you need to know. So if you need help with anything. So
Okay.
all right, I think that covers that. Does anybody have any questions? All right, cool. All right, so also part of our little cache of what we're going to be using for tools is we're also going to be using tablets. Tech's working on a grant to get us some Google Nexus tablets and kind of go over what the role is going to be with the tablets.
That's the best one I could find.
Okay.
It's
Cool.
different than yours. Well, basically, we're going to be loading these with a GPS app, so that it would be as easy as opening up that app. It uses GPS. It will give you your coordinates. If you ran into a mountain biker who had fallen and broken his leg, the helicopter, that's the best information you can give them, is the actual coordinates, because they know how to get there.
There are certain locations within the reserve where it's just not feasible to extricate a patient without a helicopter. Example was a couple months back, we had an individual that fractured his femur, and it was on the Lake Hodges Overlook loop. and you could not get an ATV through, you had to pretty much go on foot. So the most feasible way to extricate the patient was to get a helicopter out there. So by no means you need to be like a geography buff or know the ins and outs of how to operate a GPS. All you simply have to do is know how to read off latitude and longitude. So it's going to be latitude first, followed by longitude. So is it okay if I pass this around and show that?
Sure.
Okay. So you have your first, which is latitude, which is going to be where we're at currently, just to kind of give an example. You're going to read it off north, 33 degrees, 4 minutes, and 5.3 seconds. And then that's going to be the latitude. Longitude is going to be west, 117 degrees, 8 minutes, 31 seconds.
That's where we are right now.
That's where we are currently. So to kind of put in perspective, say you guys are on the you're on the equine, you're like halfway through, and you come across a guy that fractures his femur. So you know what's going to really help is getting those coordinates and either giving those to the 911 person that you're speaking with, or communicating that with the Rangers. If you communicate that with the Rangers, we can in turn communicate that with whoever is the incident commander for the emergency response. So,
And how do you get to that screen?
I'm sorry?
It'll just be an app.
It'll be an app.
It'll just be right on the front.
Oh,
and
okay.
we don't need to pass that around.
Okay.
Get short on time. But yeah, it'll be very, very easy.
It'll be as simple as pulling it up, and then it'll show you your coordinates, and just knowing how to read off your coordinates. So. Also, we'll be using those. You could use them to take photos. Like they were saying earlier, we're going to type.
Like if there's damage to try to take a photo.
Yeah.
Exactly, like a graffiti, a legal trail, something like that, so you could take pictures. We'll be putting the trail reports on there, so you can kind of fill out your report and just shoot it onto the Google, was it the cloud?
I think so.
Okay. And then also we're going to be putting interpretation tools, so botanical guides or bird guides, things like that, things to help you. If somebody asks you a question and you don't have the ability you have the ability to answer the question in the best of ways.
So this is going to have a signal on it.
Most of the apps will load onto the device itself, so you don't need a signal. If they do need a signal, we won't load that app because they're not going to be a 3G or 4G device. They're probably just going to be Wi-Fi. Okay. That pretty much concludes our training for today. If anyone is interested, we're going to go down, Sean will take us down to the trail, show you some examples of what you might encounter on your patrol. And then after that, if anyone, I promised Hank, if any of you are curious on what's going on behind us here, I'll take you on a quick tour of the water treatment plant.
And the next time, we're gonna go over some of the other etiquette on like, unleashed dog or, that kind of stuff. Is that what you said?
Yeah, so did you bring, I don't know if Jeff has it, but for homework, we're going to give you a list of all the different rules. And you can kind of just look those over in preparation for the next week's meeting, because we will go over the rules and regulations next week.
And I'll also send you the agenda of what we're going to cover next week as well. All right. Thank you, everybody.
And for the radios, if anybody needs one-on-one care, Jonathan's a really nice guy. He'll take the time to do some one-on-one.
We'll make an afternoon out of it. We'll go out on the trail and play with our radios. Just let me know. I'd be happy to.
Thanks, guys.
Absolutely. Thanks for coming out.